Good evening and many thanks for joining us on Asonye Live. It's beautiful evening and as usual we have so much to discuss. We'll start the conversation with achieving press freedom in Nigeria and then later take it to the 10th Assembly, the opposition parties and the leadership tussle. There's so much to discuss like I said earlier, and in the studio to discuss all of this is Dr. Agbo Major. He's a National Publicity Secretary, New Nigeria People's Party. He's also a media practitioner. So good to have you join us.
Thank you so much, Joy. Good evening, viewers.
Yes, we'll go for a short break now and return to discuss more. Stay with us. This is still Asonye Live. Welcome back from that short break. Like we said earlier, we'll start the conversation with achieving press freedom in Nigeria. As Nigerians join journalists across the world to celebrate and commemorate the World Press Freedom Day 2023, conversations are rife about the safety and better operating environment for press freedom and media organizations that would be devoid of attacks, equipment damage, arrest, physical attacks, and high-handedness by some government agencies. As a new administration is going to be inaugurated on the 29th of May, how can we ensure that the administration is characterized by a good relationship for all? That's what we'll be discussing. And my first question to Dr. Agbo Major, who I had introduced earlier as a National Publicity Secretary, NNPP, and a media practitioner would be, let's start by appraising the relationship with the media in this administration. Would you, in your words, say it has been cordial?
Well, first, let me not, we could have done better, by ensuring that we have a more fruitful and robust relationship with the government. Of course, there are a couple of difficulties here and there. And first, let me say that no democracy works if you have an inactive media sector, because what projects the activities of the government either positively or negatively is the media, So everybody, every practitioner in a democratic setting that knows his onions must always ensure that a smooth relationship is kept, with the media. But here we are, frictions here and there, it's not been too good, but then it's also not been too bad compared to what we've seen in the past. Remember that it's a work in progress. We've seen situations in the past where it's outright war, between the media industry and the government in place. But we didn't see that, apart from pockets of disagreements here and there.
Right.
I do know that there was a time, I think one of the newspaper houses was banned from coming into the villa, I think precisely Punch or so. And from that day, they chose up to today to continue to refer to a civilian president as general.
A major general.
So it's been very funny. I think apart from pockets of developments like that, it's not been too bad. That's to say that we've made some progress in that direction, ensuring that there is an understanding between the media and then those in government, But we could do better, like I said. It's not too bad, and it's also not completely good. So if you want me to rate in terms of percentage, maybe I could give them like 65%.
I'm wondering, when you want to rate, are you rating the presidency or in the state as well? Because one of the complaints we have is that state governors also are complicit when it comes to harassing these journalists in most cases.
Well, you see, at the level of the presidency, I think it's been more cordial. We've seen the presidency, apart from the fact that there's a seeming disconnect, between the media handlers of the presidency and then the media people themselves, apart from some slight, hiccups here and there. Maybe somebody is coming to tell you what's not the mindset of the president, or somebody is coming to tell you what's not the mindset of the government and all of that. Like the other day, I read somewhere where somebody was saying that it's not the business of the government to create jobs.
I saw that
for Nigerians.
Too. I saw that.
So very embarrassing. I'm sure.
Especially after this government came on the heels of having created
million jobs. They came on the trust of one saying that they were coming to curb the insecurity challenges we're facing. Then two, in view of the fact that they do understand that what is fueling the insecurity is the fact that people are not productively engaged, you know. So what
10 million jobs, I remember.
Yeah, one would have expected that to curb the problem of insecurity, you know, the only alternative is to create jobs so that people will have meaningful things to do and then stay away from vices and all of that. Then, lo and behold, suddenly you just see a government spokesman come out to say that it was never. I am now saying it was never because they're almost going.
Exactly.
That it was never ab initio the business of government to create jobs. You know, I think that's uncalled for, and these are some of the things we're talking about. So apart from pockets of disagreements like that or friction like that, where somebody would just come maybe from the comfort of his bedroom to say what's not the mindset of the president or the presidency, you know, and then that begins to create problems between them and those reporting them and all of that. Apart from that, I think the presidency has had a more cordial relationship with the media industry than the state governors. Now, why are the state governors not finding it easy to key in the way the presidency at the center has keyed in? The factors are there. Basically, the chief of those factors is the fact that most of those at those smaller levels who are reporting are unlicensed. You know, so they are not guided by the code of conduct that guides the media industry and all of that. And so they do what they want to do, maybe for them to attract gratification, for them to be patronized, you know, and so on and so forth, for one reason or the other. Maybe somebody who doesn't like the face of a governor is asking me to continue to attack him and all of that, you know. So we've seen situations like that. But why at the center is difficult is because those who are accredited to work at the presidency have gone through some level of screening, and so there would be every evidence to show that there's a reason for you to be accredited and accepted into the villa to be able to report the activities of the central government. But at the state level, it's not so, you know, and so that's why we have these difficulties. Yes, pockets of states, Cross Rivers, Benue, Jigawa, Kaduna, I've seen governors go head on, you know, with reporters. Most of these reporters are not supposed to be there, you know, practicing. But then a country where people can't find what to do meaningfully, anything goes. That's the situation.
Would you say it's a legitimate concern? I mean, this administration is winding down, so I don't know if it's legitimate concern any longer, but it was quite a conversation at the time when journalists kept complaining. I mean, we can't get our president on some issues. He's not addressing the public on several issues. What would you accredit to the reason why? And would you still say that the presidency enjoyed that kind of cordiality with the media when we did not see him, and those spontaneous interviews we used to have with other administrations, especially that of President Olusegun Obasanjo? He was always speaking to the media on several issues. We didn't see it with this. If you still want to go back to appraising, I don't know. I
think, Joy, that's not an issue. You know, the essence of having media handlers is for them to continue to interface between you as the president and then the public. You know, that is through the media industry. The handlers are there to interface between you and the journalists who eventually now put out the content for the citizens to read. How many times do you see the American president come on air, except for, you know, very critical situations when they are required?
And I will
to
tell you that
to
some
people.
Situations Nigerians felt were critical, and we didn't hear our president talk. We saw same old, like you just mentioned, his spokespersons who, in my opinion, really, they made the polity even more volatile.
Yeah, you see, whether anybody likes it or not, the truth is that the president is there, elected by the people, and so from time to time, the people will want to see him.
True.
You know, so if they can't see him, it means they have every reason to begin to think that something is wrong, especially when somebody is coming to talk to them and the person does not seem like we said at the opening, during the opening, a few opening comments I made, especially when the person is not coming to tell you the mindset of the president himself. It becomes an issue to be worried about, you know. So we've had situations where people come to tell us what ordinarily, if it were the president, he won't be telling us, you know. So it calls for concern. But everybody has a style You know, at the beginning, we do know that there were difficulties here and there, you know, but that is not to say that one has any justification, you know, any reason to tell Nigerians as to why the president is not there to talk to them when needed. And like I said, the difference is that if what they are coming to tell us in his place is what we want to hear, we don't need to see him. But if what they are coming to tell us, maybe somebody is coming to tell us government does not need to create jobs. But at that time, we'll be looking for our president.
We didn't give you that
mandate. No, we'll be looking for our president because the president will not tell us that. He told us he was coming to create jobs, and that's why we gave him the votes. So if at any point somebody is now coming to tell us the president didn't say he's coming to create, if we are looking at him eyeball to eyeball on the TV, we'll be able to ask him, Mr. President, this is not what you told us when you came to Benue State. This wasn't what you said when you came to Lagos and all of that. So it's worrisome. And let me tell you, in every democracy, it's good that the leaders are there to talk to the people. One missing link in Africa is that people get elected, you don't get to have access to them anymore. That's what we are seeing. But in the advanced climes, it's not like that. In US, for instance, whether the president is coming to address you or not, everybody knows that the president is good, and what somebody is coming to tell you in his place is exactly what he would tell you if he were the one talking to you.
Exactly.
But in Nigeria, in Africa, that's not the situation. So we, for the purpose of accountability, you know, a lot of things are wrong because we've had presidents in the past that would, in fact, some of them made it a weekly briefing schedule.
Yes.
Every week they come to talk to Nigerians. Exactly. Some made it bi-weekly, some monthly. It's important. Even military government, I know that IBB was doing that. Then, like you rightly have pointed out, OBJ was doing that as president of Nigeria. That is the beauty of democracy. It's accountability in one form. You are coming to tell us, these were the things I told you when I came to campaign. And these are the ones I've achieved so far. And these are the things left. And these are the strategies we put in place to ensure that the ones that are left are, you know, adequately accomplished, and then you could see them physically. And then you can now give me credit for having accomplished the promises I've made and all of that. So it's a missing link.
Exactly.
We cannot continue to encourage you. We can excuse them because they are on their way out. Whatever we have seen in the past 8 years is excusable, you know. It's a passing phase in the life of Nigeria, you know. But the incoming president must continue to talk to us, otherwise.
Now, speaking about the incoming president, in the build-up of the elections, we also saw a rift between him and some media houses where he did not find them sort of putting him in good light. He felt attacked by some media houses. Does it give you concern that when he emerges president come May 29th, we would see that kind of seamless and cordial relationship we hope to have with the presidency, the national rather, and Nigerians? If
he comes in with that mindset, he will get it the way he shouldn't get it from the media. Like I said, what projects every civil government, or any government for that matter, whether it's a military government or whatever, what sells the activities of that government to the people is the media.
Exactly.
You know, so the way you make your bed, so you lie on it. If he comes in with the mindset that some of these houses, media houses, didn't do what he expected during campaign, and so he will continue to have a relationship with them that is not too good, it's left for him to pay for it. And he will pay dearly for it because that's the beauty of democracy. Now, let me tell you, ab initio, I was never impressed with that altercation between him and a few media houses. I think Arise TV at a point, then maybe channels or something like that. You know, that's not, it's uncalled for. There's no need for that. As a leader, if you are not open to criticisms, it means something is missing, you know. Something is missing, because people should be able to say what their mind is. It is now left for you to disabuse their minds and say, look, what you are thinking is not the way it is and all of that. So if he comes in with a mind that he didn't get what he wanted during the campaigns from one or two media houses, and he wants to continue in that direction, I can tell you that he's going to have issues with the media. Because I know that there is an association that is very strong. They can decide to just completely blacking you out, you know, and then keep your activities with you. And nobody is able to... Do you know the danger in allowing only NTA to broadcast your activities as a government? KAFTAN goes off, Channels goes off, AIT goes off, or all the non-government owned TV agencies or TV houses goes off. They decide to just blacken you and your activities. It's very dangerous for you as a leader. So I expect that coming from the West,
right,
where the media revolution started from, if you check through the evolution of the media industry in Nigeria, you will see that this whole thing started from the Southwest, precisely Lagos, the popular Punch and all of that and all
right,
of that. Even Tribune that is still existing today. These are old media houses, very prolific writers, very wonderful writers, you know. And so knowing the background and guided by the fact that he's coming from that direction, he should understand the importance of having the media on his side if he wants to succeed. But if he does anything to the contrary, I can tell you that he will get
Now let's take this conversation to the social media. There's been that talk about regulating that space. Where do you stand before I go on with my other questions?
Yeah, I've continued to have issues with the activities of people using the social media platforms, especially mischief makers. The dangerous aspect of it is that nobody buys the SIM card for you. Nobody buys the Android phone for you. You raise the money, you go buy them, and so nobody determines how you use them. But it's worrisome that, and most especially because they are not members, those who use these Android phones to perpetrate these terrible things, on the platforms are not members of any specific organizations that have what it takes to regulate their activities. The tendency for them to do whatever they want to do is prevalent, and it's worrisome. But like I always say, the truth is that we'll be heading to towards anarchy, if we don't devise one way or the other to be able to regulate what people do with these phones, even though they go to buy these phones themselves.
And buy the data.
And buy
That's
the
what
data,
they often
the
say.
SIMs,
My phone, my data.
If we don't at least make efforts to regulate what they do with these phones, I can tell you that one day you just wake up and then you will see that doom is everywhere. So a responsible government will have to devise ways of ensuring that they put under some level of control, what is done with these phones, even though you are not the one giving them these phones. And how do you do that? I have looked at all the angles and I have not been able to pin any specific thing that could be done, outrightly to nip this at the bud or to stop this. The only thing I've seen so far is persuasion,
Persuasion? When has persuasion ever worked in Nigeria? I mean, I remember in the build-up of the elections, you were very busy because a lot of misinformation about your candidate, that's Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso.
I hope you don't bring that, because that will take the next 1 hour.
No,
because if I have to start telling you the instances
no, not
where
necessarily,
things were said about him that were not supposed to be said.
Yes,
people took advantage of social media.
How did the persuasion, where I'm going with the angle I'm taking is, how did your persuasion work? Because even some of those informations that were rife on social media started seeping into the mainstream media. Reputable organizations were talking about it. So how did you manage this persuasion?
Let me speak to you as a politician who was actively on the field. These things were programmed, they were orchestrated. They were designed. Yeah, they were designed. Why am I saying this? Yes, the spirit with which Nigerians prepared for that election, went down at a point. Now, at what point did it go down? It went down at that point where it became clear that certain persons were housed somewhere. What the parties did, for instance, I don't want to mention parties.
Right.
But when I say parties, those who presented frontline candidates, one of the things they did, which I continue to say is a huge disservice to our democracy and then Nigeria by extension, is the fact that they trained people, housed them somewhere, provided all that they needed, provided data, for them to continue to attack other candidates.
And you have evidence to this?
I know what I'm telling you.
Is this something your party did as well?
We never did that. That's why we became the victim. The most hit was the NNPP. But they made a lot of mistakes.
And not because some of those things there was smoke in there. You know what they say. There's no fire without smoke.
That's what I'm telling you. When something is programmed and dropped from somewhere, you see, they have sequenced it. They say, okay, this is the way we want it to unfold. And you are bound to unfold it like that because they are the ones that have put you there. They tell you what to do. Now, let me tell you. A lot of things happened. They will come today and say, His Excellency Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, the presidential candidate of NNPP, is working for Tinubu. They would come and say, okay, the other day we caught him on camera where he was saying if he were to support a presidential candidate, he would support Tinubu. And here is a presidential candidate that you are quoting as saying that. Somebody who is in the race and then who is determined to win. We battled with that. At a point, Joy, we became so tired. We said, why are we even responding to all of this? We don't need to. But the climax of it all was when a group of social media activists paid by, politicians who wanted to hit up the polity came to say that in 2 days' time, Kwankwaso, His Excellency Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso was going to step down for the PDP candidate.
Yes, I saw that as well. I remember calling you.
And I said they have finished this job. Now, why did I say that? I said that because they had set a time limit. So after the 72 hours, if the man fails to step down for Atiku Abubakar, nobody would ever listen to them again. But that was close. The dangerous aspect of it was that was close to the election.
That's true.
And like you are trying to point out now, yes, he did a lot of damage. Because
I wasn't
those
trying
who
to point
got the
that
news,
out. I want you to tell me, did he do damage? Is that why he did not emerge president?
No. Those who got the news were unable to recover from it. We were struggling to use the media to explain to them that the man was never going to step down. By the time the 72 hours timeline elapsed, and he didn't step down, it was difficult again to return to my old mother in the village to say, the man they said was going to step down did not step down. But the message had already been sent down. I was in my polling unit, and I know what happened. They were telling me to my face, brother, they said your candidate stepped down.
Wow.
It was difficult to recover from it. Now, that wasn't what stopped him from becoming president. Why he did not become president was that at a point, the system obviously was becoming manipulated. A lot of things were going wrong. Getting heavily monetized. People were deploying money, illicit money, into getting people to key into one form of arrangement or the other.
No, but we talked about it in the prior to the elections, where you were very confident that money will not dissuade the organic. I remember very well. Money was not going to dissuade the organic supporters that Rabiu Kwankwaso enjoyed.
Yeah.
So why are you now talking about the monetization
of
the elections?
But across the north, you saw what happened.
What happened?
The organic followership that he enjoys did what they were supposed to do by dropping the votes.
That's Kano State.
Not Kano. Check Jigawa. Check Bauchi. Check through some of these northern states. Check Katsina. The votes were brought as expected.
Okay.
The votes were brought. Go and check through the records. The votes were brought as expected. That is to tell you that those who believes in him and who were determined to make him president did their own side of the bargain by ensuring that their votes were dropped for him to be president. The rest is history. We're looking at all of this. As I talk to you now, I'm even preempting the team that we have set, the committee that we have set in place to give us a post-election appraisal.
Right.
And then give us a report so that we would know going towards 2027 what we needed to do to plug certain loopholes and all of that.
Okay.
But that is not to say that we cannot discuss it.
Of course.
And that's why I'm discussing it with you.
Is Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso considering going back into the race come 2027?
Let me tell you something. When you have passion to serve the people, here is a man who has lived all his life, serving the people. Not just the people, the ordinary people. And check through the statistics, you will see that what constitutes the ordinary people in Nigeria is about 85, let's say 75, 80% of the total population. and he has lived all his life ministering to their needs. He has lived all his life attending to their needs. He is the only the only politician in this country that has all his doors widely opened.
Here we go
again.
Doesn't
sleep.
Dr.
So Agbo, what I'm trying to say is that passion, that burning passion, is still there. He has not told us, but whether he tells us or not, for us, who believe that this country has to make progress, we are there to ensure that he does not disappoint us. We want to make sure that he is back again. This time around, he's going to be president because we know what happened.
Dr. Agbo, I would like to see that report. I hope it's something you can share with journalists.
Well, when it comes, we may not be able to present them to you wholly, but we'll pick the things that we'll want the public to know.
Okay, I would like to read through, but let's take it back to the press. And before we let this go, I would like you to talk about those persuasions you talked about. I mean, you just established now how difficult it was to go back after such informations were let out in the public. So what persuasions moving forward would you advise this administration, or what tactic or strategy should they employ?
Persuasion, for me, if you want me to talk about that, I will tell you that it wouldn't be the business of the government in place, to persuade people to do what should be done in terms of their choices during the election.
Exactly.
Because everybody would want to tell you, okay, vote for me. I may not be the right candidate, but I may be determined to persuade you to vote for me. Now, the truth is that when we talk of persuasion, we should be looking at independent people coming to remind Nigerians consistently from time to time that, look, we need to do what is right. We need to do what is right. If the government is telling you this, you will know that they're telling you this because they are in government and maybe they want to stay there, probably. But when you talk about the power of persuasion, what we think, like we tried to do before the election, we didn't do that on the platform of our party. We also didn't do that because we had a presidential candidate we were presenting to Nigerians. We did that with that passion that we are Nigerians, and we needed to break away from what we have engaged in since democracy returned, and we have not been able to make any appreciable progress. So now, appealing to the conscience of Nigerians, why don't we do what is good for the first time and see if we'll be able to strike a difference for ourselves? That's what I mean by persuasion.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do. Tell Nigerians, look, go there, ignore the money, ignore the spoils, ignore whatever is available for you to take, so that you'll be swayed into voting for them. Do what is right, and let us see if we'll be able to make a difference with the country.
Obviously, the persuasions were not enough.
Yeah, for now, it's a gradual thing because we've stayed all along since democracy came. We have stayed around inducement for a very long time. People are giving gari, they are giving rice, they are giving Maggi cubes, they are giving noodles and all of that. So that has sunk very deep into our psyche, and it has continued to, affect our right to make choices, But you can see that in 2023, that was reduced very considerably. And I'm sure that by 2027, it will almost be at the zero level. So we'll continue to tell Nigerians this is the way to go. Don't be induced by what they give to you.
Right.
Just make your choices devoid of what they come to give to you, whether money or material, whatever, because those things don't take you anywhere.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Agbo. But we're going for a short break now to return where we'll take the conversation to the 10th Assembly and the leadership tussle going on at the moment. This is still Joy Asonye Live. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Well, this is still Joy Asonye Live, and we are taking the conversation to opposition parties and the 10th Assembly leadership. With the completion of the elections, the 10th Assembly is fully composed. All the 109 senatorial districts and the 283 member-elect in the House of Representatives have emerged. Now, the role of the opposition party, are they still going to fall in line and give this to the All Progressive Congress? So recently, it was announced that members elect in the House of Representatives form a coalition. But how strong is this going to be? Well, Dr. Agbo is still here to give us his own opinion as to how this is going to play out. Dr. Major Agbo, again, it's good that we have you here. So what do you think? We are seeing a lot of conversations around zoning. Do you think the All Progressive Congress, let's start that conversation there, would still have an upper hand in both chambers?
Well, you are saying two things here. One, you are talking of zoning. Then two, you are talking of
I say
the APC.
let's just take the conversation first of all to the APC. Do you think we would see that strong alliance among minority opposition parties, or the APC is going to win here again?
One of the threats we have to our democracy is this winner takes all syndrome. Yes, I agree that democracy is all about number, but I don't believe that a robust legislature must be that is controlled by a political party, especially when you have that political party on top.
Already on top, yeah.
At the executive level. It makes no sense, because the beauty of democracy is that people should be able to ask questions, you know. And the only way you can ask questions is if you are coming from the opposite side. So one of the things that has been our major undoing in this country is that you have a president that is NNPP, for instance. You have a Senate president that is NNPP, for instance. You have a Speaker of the House of Reps that is NNPP, for instance. That's not democracy as far as I'm concerned. Why? Because
that healthy competition you need to hear.
That's what I'm telling you, the robustness that is expected. Remember, the beauty of democracy is that people should be able to freely disagree to agree again. That's what brings out the best in them in terms of decisions that are made. But what we see is people go to caucus in the night, and the following day it is passed across all the levels.
Does it concern you that the minority would not hold forth with this alliance? Because if they do, they will give the APC a run for their money. If
you leave me to determine what should happen, I will encourage them to stay where they are. Yes, in the Senate, it might be difficult to wrestle the presidency of the Senate from the APC. But in the House of Reps, it's very possible. If the Labour Party, the NNPP, and then Agbo also decides to come together, they can do that. And once we have a House of Reps that has a leader that is coming from a party that is not the party at the center, I think our democracy will be better for it. So if you ask me, I will encourage them to stay where they are. What they need to do is to look elsewhere, you know, and stay away from all of these inducements and all of that we're hearing. We're already hearing that
it's dollarized.
Monies are being rolled around, you know, even in dollars, not even naira. And it's so unfortunate, because for those of us who have been around in this game of party leadership, when we hear such things, we weep, because that's not what it should be. The truth is that the right thing to do is, because this is the first time we're having this number.
Exactly.
In the past, what you see is APC has this, PDP has this. Then the other parties, maybe one or two. But for the first time, because of the commitment of some of us, you know, the NNPP, for instance, we have about 19 in the House of Reps. I think I can't say what Labour Party has.
38.
Yeah, when you put that number together and then maybe you add it to that of PDP, I can tell you that we won't have a house that is as vibrant and as robust. We would have a house that is as vibrant, that will be so vibrant and robust like we've never had before. So if you want me to advise, yes, I will tell them to stay where they are, look elsewhere, just ignore what is being thrown around and do what is right for the sake of our democracy. Because civil government, what determines what comes out of it is the level to which its activities are questioned. Not just questioned, but questioned objectively. If you Somebody has to be there to say, this is what you should do. This is what you said you would do. Why are you not doing it, and all of that? But when you have everybody from one political party, whether the right thing is done, the wrong thing is done, nobody questions that. I think it's not good for our democracy.
Exactly. Now, does it also concern you that people, member-elect are all rallying around the president-elect for some sort of endorsement, when primarily it should be the concern of the legislative?
That's the precedence we've set, which I will tell you categorically clear that it's not the best for our democracy. There are so many strange things we do in this country under the guise of practicing democracy that does not happen anywhere. What do you need the president-elect to come and do? What role do you expect him to play in determining who is Senate President or who is Speaker of the House of Reps? It makes no sense to people like us. But because in the past we've seen presidents single-handedly imposing people as leaders of the two arms, the two chambers of the National Assembly. That's the precedence that has been set. And let me tell you, Joy, until we learn to begin to do things different from what has been done in the past, which has not generated the results that we would have wanted to generate for ourselves to enhance our democracy, until we learn to stay away from it, we will not make any progress. It's so disheartening.
It is.
These days now, I hardly even watch news hour of any of these TV stations, because what you see is Akpabio has gone to Tinubu, Zunaso has gone to Tinubu. What do you need him for? He is there as the leader of the executive arm of government. Allow him do his job. The legislative arm should also be able to, these are independent arms.
Exactly.
The beauty of democracy is that they are able to check and balance themselves.
Exactly.
But when you allow one arm to determine what happens in the other arm, the principles of checks and balances becomes elusive. And so the tenets of democracy is jettisoned, and then the results that are expected in terms of delivery of dividends of democracy, good governance and all of that becomes
unlike the
elusive.
2015 Bukola Saraki
I was going to go there.
Yes,
I expect something like that to happen.
If you compare it to what we have seen so far in the 8th and the 9th Assembly, would you say that it has affected dividends of democracy, like you alluded earlier?
Can I tell you something?
I would like to hear that.
The best, if I say the best, I think I will be too generous. But one of the best and most robust legislative arrangements we've had in this country was that led by Saraki and Dogara. David Mark, who is my brother, was permanently doing the bidding of the PDP, sealing whatever came his way. The present arrangement in the past 8 years have sealed without questioning whatever is brought to them. Look at the Saraki-Dogara arrangement, because they emerged through independent minds, through the commitment of the members-elect to take their destinies in their hands and do what was right. They were able to, act independently, and so they were able to provide some level of checks
on the executive.
That is the beauty of democracy. So if you give me an opportunity to make a request of this present
10th
Assembly, I would ask that same thing be done, because that's the beauty of democracy. Allow them decide what they want. Honestly, as a matter of fact, if I were a member-elect, what I will be doing now around my colleagues will be, let us not listen to what these people are doing. Let us listen to the wishes of the people. The wishes of the people is that we should be able to elect a leadership that will not be a rubber stamp leadership. Honestly, that's what I will do. So we haven't had it that good like we had it during Saraki-Dogara. And I expect same thing to play out. So I will encourage them to continue to go continue to go to the president-elect. But the serious ones should sit back and please take the destiny of our country into their hands by doing what is right, by staying away from those who are paying homage to the president-elect to come and determine who would lead them at the two chambers. By doing the right thing, electing those who are not running to the president-elect for endorsement or for whatever reason. So please, I want to appeal to Nigerians that we need a replay of what we saw during the Saraki-Dogara era.
Okay, let's take this conversation to the zoning. I was so excited about this topic. I wasn't sure where to start, but let's take it to the zoning. It's becoming very rife. The sentiment of ethnicity, the sentiment of religion is seeping into this leadership tussle. Is it something that is expected, or should it be put aside completely?
You see, let me let you understand that no matter how advanced any democracy is, What happens in it is determined majorly by the factors of religion and ethnicity. We've seen it play out even in most advanced democracies. The US democracy also yields to the pressure of religion and ethnicity and all of that. But in their own case, they don't allow it determine completely the decisions that are made as to the choices that are made in terms of who leads at whatever level and all of that. But you know, in Africa, we take everything to the extreme. You are going to make me say certain things on air now that ordinarily I wouldn't say.
Yeah, I hope it's not
I
something
was
that
one
will
of those.
get me in
I was
trouble.
one of those who said that it was dangerous for people to bring religion as a factor into this election that has just been concluded. When they say Muslim ticket, we needed to balance it. KAN went one way, another group went another way, PFN went like that. And I said, this is a dangerous precedence for our democracy. At the end of the day, what has happened? It's the same ticket that KAN complained against. It's the same ticket that Christians like you and I complained against. Are they not the ones that are going to be sworn in now?
Exactly. They eventually voted.
So what have we done? What have we achieved?
No,
I don't believe in zoning, either on the basis of religion or ethnicity or geographical arrangement. One, because it breeds mediocrity. You could zone to a place, you're unable to find the right person to occupy that position and give you what you want.
Dr. Agbo, we will just go for another very short break and then return to finish the conversation and conclude. We'll be right back. The concluding part of our discussion. I mean, we've been discussing the opposition parties and the 10th Assembly leadership tussle, and it's still Dr. Agbo Major that we have here, and he's been speaking about what the opposition should do. But my question would be, we did the dollarization. This is not coming from me. The DSS, ICPC, EFCC all came out to cry out, literally, without naming names. I should have wanted to hear them out. However, we didn't hear them name names. They come out to say, unfortunately, we are seeing dollarization of this. So do you think we would see, especially the greenhorns in the House, would they fall prey to this pressure?
You see, we have been looking at the problems with our democracy from the angle of the perks of the office. Why you see people struggle to get it by all means is because they know what they're going to get once they get in there. They also know that they could freely do whatever they want to do for their own personal gains against the interest of those who have dropped in their votes for them to get there. From the blast of the whistle, you can imagine people who haven't been inaugurated. They've already been accused of taking huge monies, you know.
People who should have stood firm to ensure Nigerians, the common man does not take this inducement.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. So the psyche is that we're going in there to make the money. So even from the point at which people begin to jostle to occupy one leadership position or the other of the various arms of government, they are already spreading money. And those who have this belief that they are going there to go and make the money are already giving in to the pressure of taking this money. But there's something I want to say here. I'm not always comfortable when our security agencies come out to say this is what is happening.
I like the phrase "cry out." So when the security agencies,
that means you're helpless.
Anti-craft agencies.
So what is your job? What are you paid to do with the taxpayers' money? You are now telling us that people are moving around with dollars, buying up support for those who want to go there. There are two questions that could be asked there. Number one, those spending this money, where did they get the money? That's number one. Then number two, what happens if eventually these monies are used to buy up this support and they emerge as leaders of the two houses?
Like you've said, maybe
what do they do?
Stooges.
The first thing to do is to see how they can recoup their money and all of that.
Exactly.
Is it in the interest of our democracy? Is it in the interest of quick delivery of dividends of democracy? Is it in the interest of the electorate that have sent them there? Until we make membership of the National Assembly, the State Assembly, and even the various executive arms of government unattractive, we will continue to have these challenges. And we have been asking that this be done. But each time we have an assembly in place and we try to work through them to get this done, because they are the beneficiaries,
exactly,
they're always frustrated. Go and look at the pay package of a legislator in Nigeria and look at that of his counterpart in the United States. That's why you don't see this, it must be done, it must be me, happen in US. Look at other smaller African countries like Rwanda and the rest, Ghana. It's not a do or die thing, because they know that you don't need to get there, or you don't have to think that you are getting there to go and get everything you need.
Exactly. However,
that's a challenge. So for as long as the system remains the way it is, nobody asks questions. The security agencies will continue to cry instead of doing their job. The executive arm that is responsible for release of these funds is not asking questions. This will continue.
Release of what funds? You say the executive arms is responsible for the release of funds.
The funds that is used to fund the activities of the National Assembly, for instance, where do they get it from?
Oh, okay.
Do they appropriate it for the... Yes, they are responsible to pass it, but the executive does the proposal.
Right. I thought we're still talking about the movement of financial inducement.
That's what I'm talking about.
I don't want to follow this thought trend where you're accusing the executives of releasing the funds.
No. I'm coming from the premise that those perpetrating this do this with the belief that once they get the support of their colleagues, the first thing they do is to recoup what they have spent. And I'm now linking it to how do they recoup it?
Okay.
Nobody asks questions now.
So how do we get the kind of robust 10th assembly that not only are they active, but we have citizens, those electorates that put them there, asking their representatives for bills that would indeed for once reflect the needs of the nation? Until
the electorate begins to hold those elected responsible.
How do we achieve
accountable?
That? Because you just laid here earlier that when immediately they get these offices, these political offices, they become unreachable. So how can the ordinary Nigerian, who is very concerned about this nation, hold his representatives accountable?
The power of the PVC.
That's another 4 years.
Yes, why not? Once a mistake is made, because one of the things we have been able to achieve in this country is to do a recall.
Exactly.
We've not been able to recall any lawmaker in this country.
So far.
So far. At least to my knowledge, it has not happened. So you have to wait for another 4 years. 4 years is just a flip. It's just like flipping through one page of a textbook. So what happens in the next 3 years, when we begin to prepare for the next election, is for the electorates to begin to ask those in office now, let us see what you have done. What have you done? You know, when placed pari passu with the promises you made, you know, that swayed us to your side. What have you done?
Dr.
And then you see people taking critical decisions. Say, okay, Joy, you are not going back. It has happened somewhere.
Yes, it has. Dr. Agbo, we are very excited about this awakening by young people and Nigerians as to their lawmakers and the governors and all the political actors. However, I was also surprised that proper interrogations were not made. Do you think that we are now understanding what governance and democracy really is? I mean, the masses?
I don't think so. We still have quite a long way to go. Why am I saying this? Joy, on our way to the 2023 general elections, because of the anger that this government has not served us well, we are unable to find jobs to do, we are unable to find food to eat with ease, we are unable to have electricity to do our menial businesses like barbing and all of that. The roads are not there. The level of insecurity, it continues to choke us and all of that. Looking at all these indices, people got angry and said, look, we're going to go all out to do what is right.
Right.
In 2023. Now the window for registration of voters opened. That jumped the total number. I may not be accurate, but we're about 40-something million or so, or 50-something million. But At the time the registration exercise closed, we were 90-something.
Million.
But Joy, how many Nigerians came out to vote?
At least 25 million.
So what is 25 million
Compared
out
to-
of 95 million or 94 million, 94 point something?
So we make more noise. We bark, we don't bite.
That's what I'm telling you. So until we cultivate this habit of coming out to determine who leads us. Do you know that if Nigerians had come out to vote, all these cries that this election was manipulated, results were
Would
not
not have been
uploaded,
there.
these ones were not done, that one was not done, and all of that would have been reduced? Because there is a level of figure
That you
that will
cannot-
be easy to play with.
Exactly.
Imagine about 70 million Nigerians coming out to vote. How would they have done that manipulation?
You're right. Dr. Agbo Major, National Publicity Secretary, NNPP, thank you so much for being part of Joy Asonye Live
Thank you,
this
Joy.
beautiful evening. Okay, so this is where we will close the curtains on Joy Asonye Live. Do have a wonderful evening and a beautiful weekend. We'll be back next week. Have a wonderful evening.